Well, sometimes all it takes is a simple picture, a photograph of a moment or a person to grab the attention of the public and make the story big. Such is the case with both the rendered photo of Baby Doe and the all-too-real photograph of a drowned Syrian boy. So now, Baby Doe has a name. She is Bella from Boston. When her body was first discovered by the water's edge on Deer Island in June, police had no idea who she was. But soon this digitally rendered photograph appeared. That innocent face and piercing eyes haunted us all as she peered off billboards. This one image drove the story to national proportions as networks and newspapers all over the country published the picture in hopes of helping to identify the girl. Likewise, this single image of the body of a young child drew the world's attention to the humanitarian crisis in Syria like no other had. There is no face, no piercing eyes, just the limp, lifeless body of a little boy who had no choice in the risks taken that ended his life. He was 2-year-old Aylan Kurdi. The one thing that these two stories have in common is just this overwhelming sadness of these two dead children. But sometimes you really wonder why one story takes off and another doesn't. There can be a whole range of similarities. It doesn't have to be in our backyard. It could be, another part of the country or the world, and we latch onto it. But there's no doubt in my mind that that rendered photograph, maybe largely because of the eyes, which turned out, by the way, to be eerily similar to the way she actually looks. I think we have a picture there off of Facebook from the mother, Rochelle Bond, had that picture of her daughter posted on the Facebook, and it looks a lot like her, and the eyes are so clear. And then, of course, the Syrian boy, I think we were all following the story, but I think that really prompted even a lot more of the local news coverage. You've seen the Globe sent Maria Sacchetti to Syria, and a number of organizations seemed to ramp up the coverage after that photograph appeared.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the Globe doesn't do that often anymore, and without that picture, it's hard to imagine that the Globe would have sent a reporter and a photographer over there, and they've been doing very good, very moving work. We're still cavemen who like to sit around the campfire, tell us a story. When you can put a human face on these things, it resonates with us in a way that any other way of telling the story doesn't resonate. And certainly the composite photo, as you mentioned, kept the story of Bella in the news for months and may have played a role in a break in the case. I hope so. The problem with that poor Syrian boy is that what do you do with that information? I mean, are we supposed to start another war? Are we supposed to open our borders? It's not clear what that's supposed to lead to, but nevertheless, it certainly is shining a light on the story in a way that
I thought it led to the real story of the desperation that a father was willing to put his two children.
Absolutely.
And he had his other children with him as well. And I think one of the things about the Bella photograph, which to me just grabbed at your heartstrings, is that she was gone since June. And you thought, what sort of life did a child leave that no one would notice the child was gone? The parents apparently said the kid was with DCF, but still that the grandmother wouldn't wonder, the aunt, whoever wouldn't wonder, or there was no life that would. This is a life that people didn't notice was gone, and I think it's a good thing, really, that when you see children. I mean, we think of these over the years. Like, I'll never forget the picture in the Oklahoma City bombing years ago of the firefighter coming up, that little limp child in his arms, or the Syrian child. It just kind of brings it home in a way that, frankly, adults can't.
Well, that was what I was going to say, that these are pictures of children, and that makes a statement larger than we could possibly have made with other kinds of photographs. Though I want to pause and say, every time the subject comes up of getting rid of photographers who really know how to take a photograph like this, this is what we should turn to and say, really? Because, it means a lot when it's framed correctly and all of that. But when it's a child, it speaks volumes, and it speaks to that helplessness that you mentioned earlier. And it also, I think, inspires people to want to do something. they don't know what, but because of that, that's what happens. So I think both of them, of course, would drive a lot of interest in both the issue beyond their deaths and also their own, just the sadness that we come away with.
And I think it's worth noting that when you're talking about images of children who have been badly harmed or who have died because they've been badly harmed, I think that's something that really crosses the spectrum when it comes to race and ethnicity. I mean, I remember LaCorey Jefferson's picture a few years ago, really making that story hit you in the gut in a way it might not have if you hadn't had that picture of him beaming. I think it was a class picture that we saw again and again. Jeremiah Oliver, last year, I believe, was it just last year or two? That too, you know, these shots of him in a similar situation where, you know, he had just vanished and you know, no one was talking about it for months, weeks. It is really remarkable for those of us who traffic in other stuff, whether it's audio broadcasting or, you know, TV stories, writing for online or for print. It makes you feel almost inadequate when you see how much more of an effect an image like this has than the most evocative, skillful reporting in another medium. There's no comparison.
That's true.